Hello again, MMA fans. I am Jason Burgos for Sherdog.com, and I am joined by one of the top stars of the Professional Fighters League. He will headline PFL 5 on July 25th in Atlantic City. He is a fellow New Yorker. He is a brother in the struggle of being a New York sports fan these days that's not a Yankee fan. And he's also known in the MMA world as the Long Island Killer. But you can call him Chris Wade. Chris, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Just about a week or so away from this big fight coming up where you're being the main event, PFL 5.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Now, last season, the league did push you, without a doubt, in terms of marketing and stuff like that, especially after the highlight reel flying kick against Kawana. But this year, it seems much more apparent, and they are really pushing you as one of the faces of the promotion. And we can see now, you're in the main event on this card. Are you feeling like a notable difference in how the league is backing you and handling you and all the marketing? Do you feel that? Because I think most of us feel it's a big difference. Chris Wade is on the forefront of season 2 in the PFL.
As opposed to last year,
Yes.
you say?
Yeah.
I think that last year, they were trying to figure out who their guys were, definitely. And then based on how the season shook out and how we performed, they started trying to figure out who they were going to push. And definitely I'm seeing quite a bit of more of a push this season.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I was on very early on most of the cards, whereas this year it's really toward the tail end or if not the main event. So definitely been a big difference as far as even my positioning on the cards. But yeah, also definitely getting a push social media big time.
Yeah, I saw you mentioned that in the interview with James Lynch. Like, what would you say is a push in social media? Like, it's been a huge jump in followers and just comments. Like, what's the difference that you're feeling much more now than you did then?
I mean, not a huge jump in followers, but a couple of my videos have gotten quite a bit of traction from my pick, and we did some fun summer camp style stuff that
Okay.
they were encouraging us to do, and I hit that tornado kick with the bottle into the garbage can. So,
Oh.
so uh, a lot of that stuff's getting traction, and when I throw them something, if it's good, they push it right away. So
Mm.
I'm so grateful for it. It feels so good to finally be one of the people I always saw myself as, which is a marketable person in any promotion. Um, and I'm just very, very thankful to the PFL for the opportunity.
And since you brought that up, it actually transitions into a question I was going to ask a little further, but I'll just jump to it and ask that now. Is being in this league, at least right now, a perfect situation for you? I mean, I ask because the PFL, so far over the 2 seasons, like we just mentioned, are promoting you much more. They're promoting over their 2 years a lot in the area, in New York, going to Jersey, close by. You're one of the top guys there. You have a chance to make $1 million, but still making really solid money. Everybody's making solid money, even if you don't get to the million. Is this one of the better situations for you in that you can have not only just right now, but in your career, just because of all those added attributes that it comes with being a part of this particular league for you as a New Yorker?
There's no question that that's the case. There's nowhere else that I stand to do better. Um, there's no situation that could possibly be better. Like you said, we're all doing, maybe not everybody, but everyone's getting paid pretty solid throughout the season. And then when you tell someone that at the end of the calendar year, guess what? Everyone has a shot at $1 million as well. Where else in fighting can you say that is a reality? It's really not. There's so much politics in and around where the money gets spread out in the other promotions that even if you were making solid show and win money, none of us had the chance at $1 million.
Yep.
I mean, who has the chance at $1 million, even at the highest level in the UFC? Even if you're in the top 5 or top 10,
Yep.
you're not making $1 million to show up. Those guys are making 150, or 300. So, and that's top tier. You have a very short list of people that have the opportunity to be making 7 figures, and it's Connor, maybe Khabib, a couple other guys, and after that, it's just not there. The money's not being doled out. It's all being put in the pockets of the people who run the company. So, um, hats off to PFL. They changed the game. They changed the whole structure with the regular season and the playoff format, creating the excitement of the unknown. Um, in everything else, it's someone else deciding who they want to see
Mm,
fight,
yeah.
and it's one-off matchups. I always equate it to the other sports because I'm such a big sport fan.
Mm-hmm.
You just watch exhibition games with, the Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and then at the end of the season, the commissioner just decides who he wants to see play for the championship. Like that's not a sport,
Nope.
you know. Um, yeah, it's still a fight when the bell rings, but it's not a true sport.
Mm,
It's not a true way to determine who a champion is for a particular calendar year. Um, then you have all these interim belts and
mm-hmm.
whatnot. Uh, who's the champ? Who's not the champ? Who's the real champ? You got you got Colby walking around. He's got
Yeah.
a belt in
Yeah.
the interview,
Yeah.
but he's not the interim or
Nope.
the belt holder. So
No.
it's wild, wild west, and
Mm-hmm.
it's who's rubbing elbows with the right people, um, who gives them what they see as the best opportunity to make money for themselves, not who's the best competitor, who's the
Mm-hmm.
best fighter. So this is the format to be taken throughout all of fighting if they want to ever see it become what they hope it can become, which is basketball, which is
Mm-hmm.
baseball,
Yep.
which is football. Um, I've been in the sport for over a decade. I wrestled my whole life. We are not boxing. The whole sport, I respect it that initially it was structured around that because it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of the closest thing at the time um, to MMA. So they used the 10-9 scoring system. They used the promoter who creates the championship matchup and
Mm-hmm.
the undercard that follows underneath. But we see how broken that can be.
Yeah.
And the fans are there. They love the sport, but the sport needs to go in this direction. So PFL has it perfect right now.
Now I wanted to go back to the Nate Andrews fight. I interviewed Nate before that fight. He had a fair level of confidence going into it. He had appeared on Fight Pass before, and but this is by far the biggest stage of his career to date. For people unfamiliar with him, he definitely he gave you a very competitive fight. Since he developed a reputation here in the Northeast area, did you know him very well? Did you expect a tough fight going into it, or did he end up being tougher, a little bit more competitive than even you expected?
I didn't know. I heard of his name. I think I said it in an interview leading up to the fight. They tried it in CES before I left Ring of Combat and wound up in the UFC.
Mm.
They sent a feeler out to one of my coaches at the time to see if I would go up to wherever the promotion was having the fight, Connecticut or Rhode Island or something,
Mm-hmm.
and to fight him up there in his promotion. But I had my eyes on kind of bigger things,
Yeah.
so I didn't want to leave where I was established and a champion just to go get a bout with someone else who I didn't feel like necessarily had the biggest name.
Mm.
And I think even though he's very, very good fighter, very tough guy, the fact that they never picked him up kind of says what you need. You all you need about whether or not it's the right choice to go up there and go fight that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of the money was almost non-existent when you're coming up at the case. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, where's the upside of this? There's really not. And so I knew of him, but not never really got to watch any of his fights. And it was hard to find tape on him
Mm.
because it was CES. It was all old YouTube videos.
Mm.
You're looking at fights that happened in like 2012,
Wow.
2013. Talking about almost a fight lifetime ago. So you don't even know who the person is that you're going to be seeing in there. But we knew with his win streak and his submission win streak that he was going to be really tough. He's a southpaw, which usually gives people a little bit harder of a time if they're an orthodox fighter, so I wasn't sleeping on him. Definitely wasn't sleeping on him. But when you're trying to figure someone out and you only get 15 minutes to do it,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not as easy as you hope it would be.
Did it? Was there a situation where you kind of had to go to a plan B, a plan C, or a plan D, or was the game plan what you needed? It just kind of you had to just figure things out, get a read on his skills, find the range, and then that's how it played out in the fight.
I kind of was trying to flow through,
Mm-hmm.
but something I also have spoke about honestly. I just made like some really dumb mistakes early on where
Mm-hmm.
I respected his chokes too much.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent the majority of the camp trying to work on upper body takedowns. And so once I cornered him early on, I went to engage in like a clinch to try and take it to the ground and then see if I could finish the fight there.
Mm-hmm.
But he was so scrappy, he was an over under, and I spent a ton of juice trying to force takedowns that just weren't there.
Okay.
And when I finally got off of that, I I had really blown a ton of juice in my arms, and then from that moment on, it was sort of a plan B, like trying to get my arms back to come back from the lactic acid buildup that you get in there on the cage squeezing. Um, that top style of fighting and those situations that arise in fighting, it's a double edged like negative where not only is it kind of the most boring thing to the fan and
Yeah.
to the spectator, but it's also the most grueling to the fighter.
Mm.
So if you don't get in and out of those situations, you do yourself kind of a double disservice. You don't excite anybody, and you also leave those exchanges with a lot less in the tank to do the things that you want later in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I wound up, just pushing through, fighting through. I was remembering last year where I kind of a fight with the 10, the first fight went similar, and I didn't have it in me to switch the gears and to make the adjustments, and I walked away with no points, no win bonus. So this year, trying to be smarter and walk away with some points and to get a victory.
Anyway, for you for the next fight next week against Akhmet Aliev, first give me your scouting report on him. He has legit pop in his hands. We saw it in his impressive TKO win at PFL 2. He fought in a solid promotion at Fight Nights Global before this. What are your thoughts on him? His strength, his weaknesses, stuff like that going into this fight.
I always have a lot of respect for. I always will for the Dagestani and the Russian fighters. I think they come from probably one of the toughest places in the world, uh, um, and the only reason that I feel like I'm able to hang with those guys and to give them the scraps that I've given them is because I grew up wrestling and kind of stimulating and creating those hardships in my life where I'm cutting weight at a young age when other people are enjoying themselves. I'm out at tournaments on the weekend, battling when other people are just hanging out. And, for me, that lifestyle was simulated for them. They grew up in that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes, they're training Sambo from the time they're walking around.
Yeah.
And they're all aspiring to be fighters and wrestlers. Whereas here in America, there's so many things to catch your attention at all the major sports. So it's a little tougher to focus and to specialize the way that they have their whole lives. And so not taking him lightly at all. Like you said, he's got a good record. He's more of a striker than he is necessarily a grappler. He wants the TKO or the knockout. I don't know if he has any submission finishes. I didn't look.
None. All decisions and TKOs.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like this is the kind of that old school matchup that you see back in like the late '90s or early 2000s, where you're looking at you got the striker versus the grappler who has explosiveness, and let's see whose style matches up and who comes out on top. So it's intriguing to me.
You mentioned points and how you're looking at things a little differently this time around. He's at the top of the standings at lightweight right now. You are at placed at 4 in the standings. You're an honest guy. That's why I like talking to you. So does playoff seeding really matter for fighters in the PFL? This isn't. It is like a lot of other sports, but different in the big four sports. And that a playoff spot doesn't mean, say, home field. Like if you get a top seed, you're gonna go back to New York for sure, or anything. And in MMA, anything can happen. It's a dangerous sport. It's hard to underestimate anybody. Does seeding matter going into this fight? Do you want to get further up, or is it more about, let me just get the W, maybe make sure I solidify my playoff spot and get in, or is it a little bit of both?
It's so hard to say. Not because you don't know who's gonna fall where quite
Exactly.
yet.
Yeah.
So everybody matches up stylistically better or worse against different opponents. So as it starts to stack up, like if you're looking for the 2 seed, like the highest possible seed or something, if I'm looking to get a finish and to get myself up to the top, the guy who comes in at 7, who knows? It could be someone who, for me stylistically, it winds up being one of my toughest
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Whereas you could wind up the 6th seed and the guy who's sitting at 3, maybe that's a better matchup for
Mm-hmm.
you. So it will be hard to tell until that night when the chips start to fall, where you're kind of looking to hope to land.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only so much you can do, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're a competitor. Your option is very limited. It's win the bout, make your money,
Mm-hmm.
and then to finish or not to finish, that's something you don't want to play with either. Because why do you don't want to leave someone who has power like him or who has striking prowess in a fight if you have his back and you have his
Mm-hmm.
neck. It's just not going to happen. So it's business as usual. See an opportunity, take the opportunity, fight, fight smart, fight hard, fight to win, and let it all fall where it may, and I'll work my way through it.
Now, we talked a good bit about MMA. We talked about PFL 5. Now we've got to talk about some suffering. We've got to talk about being a New York sports fan in this city right now. Now, from looking at your social, I follow you on Instagram and Twitter. I know you're a Mets fan, obviously. It seems like you're a Knicks fan. Do you have a favorite football team? Are you into hockey at all? I know hockey's big on the island as well. Like, what are your other two teams in those other sports if you have them?
Yeah, so I'm a Met fan, I'm a Knicks fan, a Giant fan,
Oh,
and,
yes.
and a Ranger fan.
So you didn't
So,
want to give yourself complete suffering by being a Mets and Jets fan, like many of us here do here.
and yeah, hey, a Met Jet Islander like is run of the mill here on the island.
Mm-hmm.
I did, it's basically how we were raised. My dad, he brought us up. He was a Giant fan, not a Jet fan. I'm sure had he been a Jet fan, I'd be wearing green on the Sundays and suffering like all the other Jet fans. But thankfully, that was the one move he made.
Yeah.
That was really a good move
Yeah.
because he doesn't really follow basketball. He's an Islander fan, so
Mm-hmm.
I shook away from him on the hockey front. But the Giants, thank God that I
But
got 2 titles because it would be just all 31 years of straight suffer, no championships if it wasn't for them.
and the thing is, and I thank my luck that I'm so into MMA for pleasure and for business, and it takes up so much of my time, and then you have life and the other job and stuff like that. Because I don't know if you feel the same way. I'm glad MMA takes up my time because I haven't been as diehard a sports fan because the Mets are a mess. The Knicks are even a bigger mess. The Giants, unfortunately, have become a mess. Even the Rangers are messy, but that's after winning. Like, what are your thoughts on the Mets? Like, what are you feeling about Callaway? What are you feeling about Van Wagenen? What do you feel about having 3 All Stars and still being bad? This is extremely frustrating stuff. I hate to think about
My mind is blown about how in the biggest city in the world,
it. Mm-hmm.
right? But knowledgeable fans probably you could stack them up against anyone. The fans up in New
Yes.
England,
Yep.
and you have it's all starts and ends with ownership.
Mm-hmm.
You have you have owners that are allowed to come into the league and to purchase teams that have no intent in the largest market in the world to push to win championships.
Mm-hmm.
Or they want to medal. They're not. They're born on third base. A lot of them, their fathers were
Yep.
the ones who made the money, not them. So they didn't grow up these like savvy, sharp businessmen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they were taught some stuff, but it's like these are their toys almost, and something for them to like boast about to their other rich friends that who knows where they live,
Mm-hmm.
that we don't even see. But they treat it like it's their little toy, and they try to get involved down to levels that you're shocked to hear about, like with
Mm-hmm.
Jeff and with Dolan. He lays off the Rangers, and the Rangers win constantly. He,
Yeah. Yep.
he doesn't get out of any trade, signing, nothing when it comes to the Knicks because he likes basketball
Mm-hmm.
and they can't win a game.
Yep.
It's like you are the common denominator, but their egos are bigger than their bank accounts,
Mm-hmm.
and they can't see it and take a step back and hire the right person and just let them have the reins and sit in the box and be owners.
Mm-hmm.
The Mets make me even more angry because they're so cheap and
Yes.
they take so much of the
Yes.
money, and every move they make, they that when they overspend, it's the wrong move every time. I don't know who's sitting in there
Yeah.
making a call. I'm not um, an expert on the entire league, but I'm confident that if I was sitting in there, I could look at him and be like, "Do not re-sign Jeurys Familia for $30 million in 3 years.
Would you have
Don't
done the
do it."
Cano move? Would you have taken Cano for and then with
No,
Diaz?
no. Why would you trade position player
Yeah.
top prospects for a reliever?
Mm-hmm.
Relievers in baseball are so hot and cold year to
Mm-hmm.
year. Unless you're Mariano Rivera, which is not going to come along again
Nope.
for another 50 years,
Nope.
100 years, you cannot trade these types of people for somebody who comes in and pitches a third of an inning, an inning at most.
Mm-hmm.
And we gave away Kalinick and I forget what the other kid's name is, and they're killing it. And I have to
Yeah.
look at Cano and his inflated contract and this kid who can't throw the baseball over
Uh-huh.
but it. Me and you could do the same thing that he does.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, yeah.
Is to walk the whole team or to give up home runs. I
Mm-hmm.
think you and I can accomplish this.
I think I'd be pretty good at that.
And we could do it at a much more affordable price.
Yeah. No, what I'm
So
talking about price and stuff like that. What'd you think of this awful? I mean, I'm not gonna say awful, but a disappointing Knicks offseason. I deluded myself. A couple months ago, I was thinking we're gonna get Zion, we're gonna get Durant, we're gonna get all these guys. I love the Randall move. I think Randall can be a total star. I think he can be great. But I'm sorry, I'm not going buck wild over getting Portis and Reggie Bullock. Just not blowing the hair back.
when I watched Durant's calf pop or his Achilles
Yeah,
pop
yeah.
that night,
Oh.
the moment I saw his leg wobble like that,
Yep.
I knew it was over for us.
Mm-hmm.
I knew all the things that we were hoping and dreaming for as Knicks fans
Yep.
to become relevant like immediately. I knew it was all going out the window because unfortunately, I think that the position that the team is in compared to the Nets,
Mm-hmm.
I think that they made the right move staying away from him and Kyrie.
I agree. Kyrie, I would have kept, but Durant, I don't think Durant's ever going to be the same again.
But Kyrie, like, I don't know. If we
He's
start
messy.
going bad,
Yeah.
if we start going bad during the season, he's one of those guys where like he's one of the fruits that rot right away with everything else. He doesn't. He lets himself go and he checks out mentally
Yep.
from situations if he's not getting exactly what he wants out of it. So I knew like those two guys, if he wasn't healthy and we had to wait like a full year for him to recover and then hopefully
Mhm.
come back, I knew that it just like wasn't gonna happen. And then I said to myself, if we don't get Zion, it's gonna be a problem
Yeah.
here because how are we gonna pull anybody else that's a big name? We're not. So now we're forced to do this rebuild from the
Yeah.
ground up,
Yep.
and I just don't trust them. I don't trust Dolan that he's this like scout with prowess, and
Hmm.
these the people he puts around him are going to be able to build that way. So we lost Porzingis, we lost. I'm He didn't want to stay here. It's just I could pull my hair out from the two teams. I really could.
I feel some hope. I feel like they're finally not making the dumb moves. Like Westbrook would have been nice, but probably not a good long term move. They're gonna have to do it the old fashioned way and make New York matter again with some young players and not wanting Durant because it's too dangerous, especially after Stoudemire. I actually like that. It feels like finally there is some brains, but Dolan is always there, so you never know if the brains will leave. But let's talk about something that doesn't hurt our hearts and make us suffer. What are some of your like personal passions away from maybe the big four sports, away from MMA, something that for someone that's watching this they'll go, wow, Chris Wade likes that, I never knew, like a favorite movie, TV shows, music. What are the things you love to do?
TV shows, right off the bat,
Mm.
I was a Game of Thrones diehard.
Yes, what'd you think of season 8? I like season 7 better.
It broke my heart to see it go down that way.
Yeah.
I so I had such high hopes. I read the majority of the books,
Really? Okay.
and, and just to not get answers that we wanted, and then the way that they let it end with it going to black after he kills her, and then you come back and they're just having a meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and it's done over and done with. It was just such a letdown when it doesn't end strong.
Yeah.
The beginning and the middle were so strong. It's
Yes.
like to equate it back to sports, it's like your team having a sick regular season
Yeah.
and then just going down in like
Yes.
first round
Yes.
to like a low seed, and you're like, that's not what I wanted, you know. So now I'm into Stranger Things big time right now.
Yes, I didn't like season 3. Like season 3, I liked it, but I didn't feel it was as good as 2 and 1.
One was great
Oh,
right
classic.
out of the jump,
Yeah.
right out of the gate. It
Mm-hmm.
was fire, but I'm still in the middle of it, so I'm not quite sure yet where it's
Mm-hmm.
going with the Russians and whatever's going on.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm gonna stick with it and
yeah.
watch the whole thing. But those are um, those are my two main shows right now that I'm into. I watch a lot of I love to watch Cops. Yo,
Oh
I love
yeah.
Cops. I can
Okay.
watch like live TV or Cops all
Yes.
day, and then I dabble into like I've been dabbling, the whole Area 51 joke that's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
I love watching like conspiracy documentaries. I
Mm-hmm.
get really big into those. So those are a couple of like low key things that I get myself into. Sometimes too much of the rabbit hole with some of those,
Okay.
but I'm a big beach guy, being here from Long
Of
Island, and
course.
I'm into fishing big time. So
Mm.
uh, during the nice weather, you every day that I get the opportunity, I'm there.
Mm.
I drive my truck right onto the beach, so I'm
Nice.
off roading constantly. It's another thing that I'm big into. We don't get enough time, unfortunately, here. You know
Mm.
how it is. The weather,
Yeah.
it's through our fingers so quickly,
Yeah.
but those are some of the other things that I'm pretty passionate about.